Boston, late January. Evan Sterling, Lumen AI's visionary CEO, steps from a winter demo into a mansion colder than the seaport wind. A nor'easter strands him home early. In the kitchen, his 7-year-old twins scrub copper pans in near-freezing water while their stepmother sips tea. His gift bag hits the tile. A father wakes up. What secret in his smart home will protect them, and what will it cost? Boston in late January moves like a breath you can see. Lake snow drifts sideways across the seaport, and the glass of the convention center hums with heat while the world outside snaps with cold. Evan Sterling stands behind the podium lights, fielding one last question about predictive plow routing. He smiles for cameras, thanks the city partners, and watches the applause fall away like flakes that never touch ground. Through the frosted wall he can see cranes, river, and blinking buoys. A city his models can predict to the minute, while his own house drifts beyond any map he trusts. He nods to staff, trades handshakes for waves, and steps into the waiting car. The driver asks if he wants the news. Evan says quiet. Music. Cello, low and steady, fills the cabin. His phone vibrates with investor texts about the demo. Vanessa's name floats above a message about an upcoming podcast segment. There is a photo link he does not open. He rubs his thumb against the edge of his watch and lets the music count 40 blocks to home. The mansion sits on a hill where the wind is always louder. Tonight, it sounds like a train with nowhere to go. The foyer lights rise as the door opens, perfectly timed by the system he designed. Warmth should meet him. It does not. The air is technically 70, but it feels thin. A number on a screen, not heat in the bones. He shuts the door and tastes the metallic cold that clings to stone. Vanessa's ring light glows in the den. He can see her reflection in the window, a polished silhouette framing a face the internet adores. She is recording a clip about winter wellness. "We choose resilience," she says, voice honeyed. "We choose discipline over comfort." She sees him and flashes a smile. "You crushed it," she mouths, then turns back to the lens. He lifts a hand and lets it fall. "Mr. Sterling," Mrs. Patel says from the hallway, voice soft, eyes quick. She has a cardigan buttoned to the throat and snow in her hair. The girls are upstairs reading. She does not meet his gaze for long, but she does not look away. Her hands hold a folded kitchen towel, damp along the edge. He notices the dampness more than the towel. He steps into the kitchen. The island gleams, spotless, as if a crew of cameras might sweep in. The copper pans hang in perfect order. A paper snowflake is stuck under a magnet on the fridge, its cut edges rough, the center shaped like a small star. He remembers a December when small hands cut those shapes with real scissors for the first time. He keeps the snowflake on the refrigerator now, even when Vanessa rearranges the magnets for her photos. It is the one thing that refuses to be curated. Arya and Nora pad in on sock feet, hair still damp from bath time. 7 is both big and small on them all at once. Arya holds a paperback about a girl and a sled. Nora clutches a knitted blue scarf, the one their mother wore on errand days. "Dad," Arya says, careful and even. "Did you see the trucks? Your demo was on TV." He kneels, smiles with the part of his face that still remembers how. "I did, baby. You watched?" Nora nods and tucks the scarf to her mouth. Her cheeks are pink in a way that does not look like warmth. "Girls," Vanessa calls, breezing in, phone angled just so. 5 minutes of quiet time after reading. Gratitude journals. Hot water only, 30 seconds max, it's good for circulation. She kisses air in Evan's direction. "Your segment tomorrow is earlier. I shifted a thing," he says. "We said sledding Saturday," she says. "Weather permitting, media permitting. The world needs your voice. Right, girls?" The twins glance at each other, twin ripples across a frozen pond. He opens the pantry. The hot cocoa tins he ordered months ago still sit on the top shelf, unopened, labels facing forward. He pulls one down and shakes it. The sound is hollow, a bright rattle in a room that wants silence. "Long day?" Vanessa asks, already typing. They did chores after school. Mrs. Patel supervised. Small tasks build capacity. He looks at Mrs. Patel. She is folding that towel again, as if it might give up an answer if she makes the corners meet. He touches the paper snowflake with his finger, presses it flat, and feels its soft give. "I want to make cocoa," he says. "Real cocoa with milk." Aria's eyes catch light. Nora's hands press the scarf tighter. Vanessa tilts her head. Sugar before bed is not aligned. Mrs. Patel murmurs, "I can warm the milk." Evan says more firmly, "I will." He takes a pot down and sets it on the stove. The gas clicks, then blooms, blue and sure. As he stirs, wind claws the eaves. The house hums. All ducts and sensors and perfect alerts. He listens for laughter, for little feet, for some easy sound he remembers from a different winter. The cocoa begins to steam. He pours into 3 mugs. He hands one to Aria, one to Nora, and holds the third so the heat reaches his skin. They sip, and something small eases in the room, as if the house itself remembered a different setting. He does not know yet what he will find. He knows only that the numbers do not match the feeling. The system says 70. The room says cold. The girls say, "Thank you, Daddy," but their eyes say more. He watches steam lift like breath into a winter night and decides to stay home tomorrow, no matter who calls. 3 winters ago, Evan buried the only person who ever quieted his mind. The morning his wife, Claire, slipped away in that hospital room overlooking the Charles, Boston's skyline blurred behind the glass. Snow fell then too, soft and slow, like time had lowered its voice. Aria and Nora had drawn her a get-well card with crooked hearts and a paper snowflake glued to the corner. She'd smiled through the oxygen mask and whispered, "Keep him warm." It was the last thing she ever said. Afterward, warmth became theory. Evan lived inside meetings, milestones, and quarterly reports. His sister, Olivia, handled the rest. Family holidays, school paperwork, the occasional grocery list when Mrs. Patel couldn't reach him. "They need a mother, not a calendar," she told him after the twins started waking up screaming. "You're drowning, Evan. Let me introduce you to someone grounded, someone who can keep things steady." That someone was Vanessa Pierce, a wellness influencer with a perfect smile and a million-follower brand about redefining discipline. They met at a charity gala for tech literacy, where cameras loved them instantly. Vanessa's warmth was photogenic. She spoke in balanced tones about resilience and purity of routine. Olivia swore she was a healing energy. Evan wanted to believe her. He mistook composure for kindness, control for care. Now, sitting alone in his study, he scrolls through old photos. Claire on the back deck with the twins, sleeves rolled, hair messy, cocoa streak on her cheek. She'd said, "Work saves cities, Ev. Love saves houses." He had nodded then, meaning to remember. He didn't. Vanessa walks in without knocking, phone pressed to her ear. "Yes. Brand deal renewed." "No. They'll ship by Friday." She lowers her voice. "Can you not brood in the dark? It ruins circadian balance." Her tone turns softer, rehearsed. "I'm planning a gratitude retreat for the girls. Fasting, journaling, low stimuli mornings. It'll help them self-regulate." Evan's jaw tightens. "They're 7, not seminar clients." She smiles, patient, polished. "Structure builds safety. You of all people know systems work better than feelings." When she leaves, her perfume lingers, a clean scent with no warmth underneath. Evan closes the laptop and walks upstairs. The twins' nightlight throws constellations on the ceiling. Nora's blue scarf lies at the foot of the bed. Aria's sketch pad shows a half-finished drawing of a snowflake, the same crooked shape they made for their mother. He picks it up gently. "You miss her, huh?" he whispers. Nora stirs, eyes fluttering open. "Does heaven have cocoa, Daddy?" He nods, throat thick. I think it does. The real kind, not the sugar-free one. Mrs. Patel steps quietly into the doorway, cardigan wrapped tight. They've been good, she says. But Miss Vanessa keeps experimenting. Ice baths in the morning, no blankets to toughen them. I keep the heat on when she's out, but Evan sighs. I thought she'd help. Mrs. Patel looks at him for a long moment. Sometimes help means standing still long enough to see what's breaking. The next day, Vanessa posts a video from the Marble Kitchen, talking points about embracing discomfort. Aria and Nora appear blurred in the background, wiping counters. A family that grows together glows together, she says to her followers. Evan sees it on his phone between meetings. Thumb hovering over the screen, watching his children perform tidiness for strangers. He texts her, "Please stop filming them." She replies with a heart emoji and nothing else. At dinner, the twins eat salad and plain rice. "Protein detox," Vanessa chirps. Evan cuts a bite of chicken, offers it toward Nora's plate. She shakes her head, glancing nervously at her stepmother. "We already ate snacks, Daddy." Her small voice trembles at the end. Later that night, Mrs. Patel finds him in the garage, sitting inside the parked car, engine off, hands on the wheel as if waiting for a green light that never comes. "You look like Mr. Sterling the younger," she says softly, "the one who used to drive to school concerts and forget his tie." He almost laughs. "That guy didn't have shareholders." "Maybe he had something better," she replies. He stares out through the windshield, where snow begins to drift again under the motion sensor lights. In the reflection, he sees his own face. Sharp lines, tired eyes, the polished image of a man who saves cities but can't keep a promise to two small girls. He whispers, "Tomorrow, I'll make it right." But tomorrow will slip again, and the warmth in his house will keep retreating, inch by inch, until one storm decides not to let him leave. The wind woke the house before dawn, rattling the eaves and whispering down the hall. By the time Evan came downstairs, Vanessa was already in workout gear, blending something green and loud in the kitchen. "Morning," he said, rubbing sleep from his eyes. She didn't look up. "Cold exposure today, builds immunity." Aria and Nora sat at the table, wrapped in oversized robes. Bare feet tucked up under them. Their bowls of oatmeal were plain. No milk, no sugar. Nora's spoon rested untouched. Aria's lips were chapped. Evan frowned. "They've got school. It's 15 degrees out." Vanessa flashed her perfect teeth. "Exactly why it's good for them. We're raising future leaders, not porcelain dolls." He leaned on the counter, trying to find patience. "They're 7. She shrugged. "Discipline starts early." Mrs. Patel moved quietly between them, pouring coffee into Evan's mug, the small gesture brimming with silent warning. Later that morning, his schedule consumed him. Media interviews, engineering updates, investor calls. By the time the last meeting ended, daylight was already sliding off the skyline. His assistant buzzed in. "Vanessa's podcast team's on hold. Wants to confirm your availability for tomorrow's segment." Evan's chest tightened. "Cancel it," he said, surprising even himself. "Tell them I've got a promise to keep." That night, he called upstairs. "Girls, Saturday, sledding, Boston Common." Twin squeals echoed down the staircase, the kind that reminded him of old times, snowball fights, cocoa mustaches, Claire's laughter floating over them all. Vanessa appeared in the doorway, one hand on her hip. "You didn't check with me first." "I don't need to," he said evenly. "They've been looking forward to it for weeks." She crossed her arms. "You mean the same weeks you were flying coast to coast? Don't throw me the fun dad routine, Evan. They need consistency, not chaos." "They need their father," he said quietly. For the first time, her smile faltered. "You think love means coddling? You build machines that save lives, but you can't build a backbone in your own home." Her words landed like ice. He wanted to argue, but fatigue weighed heavier than anger. "We'll talk later." He went upstairs. Aria and Nora were drawing snowflakes again. "Can we go early, Daddy?" Arya asked. As soon as the sun's up. He smiled. Promise. The next morning, his phone exploded before sunrise. CNBC wanted a live appearance. Just 10 minutes about AI and urban resilience. His team insisted the timing was critical. He hesitated, picturing his daughter's boots by the door. Vanessa walked in, robe belted, phone already in hand. You have to do it, she said smoothly. It's national coverage. Investors will eat it up. I'll take them sledding. Don't worry. Something in her tone chilled him. Still, guilt whispered louder. He kissed the girls' foreheads, promised to meet them for cocoa at noon, and left. The segment stretched longer than expected. When he finally got home, the house was too quiet. Snow Boots sat untouched by the door. Upstairs, he found the twins napping, cheeks pale, hair damp. Mrs. Patel sat beside them, knitting. They didn't go, she said gently. Mrs. Sterling said they had chores instead. Cold rinse for discipline. He blinked. She made them bathe in cold water? Mrs. Patel's lips tightened. Said it teaches control. Evan felt something twist inside. No more, not again. He stormed down to the gym where Vanessa filmed her latest video under bright lights. You canceled sledding? She turned, still smiling for the camera. We adapted. The weather shifted. Don't. He lowered his voice, aware of the rolling cameras. They're kids, Vanessa. She ended the recording, face cooling instantly. You think I enjoy being the villain? Someone has to teach them to survive. He stepped closer, voice low. They're surviving you. For a moment, her eyes flashed. Not guilt, but calculation. Then she softened her expression, brushing a manicured hand down his sleeve. You're tired, Evan. Go rest. I'll handle the girls. He didn't move. I'll handle them from now on. That night, he worked late in his study, code scrolling across the screen. He paused when the house system pinged. A thermostat dip in the east wing, 23 degrees. He frowned, adjusted it back up, and watched it drop again seconds later. He pulled up the internal logs. Someone had overridden the settings manually. He leaned closer. 1 anomaly became 3, then 10. Each time, the override aligned with one phrase caught by the ambient mic. Consequence builds character. His breath caught. He clicked play, listening to faint clinks of metal pans, water running, a small whimper. It wasn't an anomaly. It was a warning. A nor'easter slammed Boston that Friday afternoon, grounding flights and swallowing the skyline in white. Evan's interview in New York was canceled, the first stroke of luck he'd felt in months. He picked up his coat, stopped at a downtown chocolatier, and smiled for the first time all week. Limited edition cocoa kits for Arya and Nora, the kind Claire used to buy when snow fell too hard for school. By the time the car wound through the quiet seaport streets, the wind was screaming through frozen gutters. His driver slowed near the mansion gate. You sure you're walking in, sir? Yeah, Evan said, stepping out. The blast of cold cut straight through the wool of his overcoat. Snowflakes collected on his lashes. He pushed open the front door and froze. The house was darker than usual. No music, no laughter. A faint metallic echo came from the kitchen. He followed it, boots leaving wet marks on marble. When he reached the doorway, the sound sharpened. Scraping, clinking, small voices murmuring. Arya and Nora stood on stools, sleeves rolled up, tiny hands plunged into a sink full of near-freezing water. Copper pans gleamed in a mountain beside them. Steam didn't rise. The water was too cold for that. "Daddy?" Nora gasped. Startled. Her lips were trembling. Arya turned, eyes wide, a half-polished pan shaking in her grip. Vanessa stood behind them, immaculate in white cashmere, sipping tea from a porcelain cup. "Oh, you're home early," she said evenly, as if he'd walked into a meeting, not a punishment. "What is this?" he asked, stepping closer. "Consequences," she replied. They disobeyed instructions. Too much heat during cleaning causes streaks. They're learning attention to detail. He stared, disbelief twisting into anger. "They're children, Vanessa. Their hands. Resilience," she cut in smoothly. "You want strong daughters, don't you? Not fragile little flowers." The cocoa bag slipped from his grasp, hit the tile with a dull thud, and split open, powder dusting the floor like ash. Arya flinched at the sound. Nora's small fingers slipped from the pan and hit the rim of the sink with a cry. Evan crossed the room in 3 strides, shutting off the tap. The water was icy enough to burn his skin. He wrapped a towel around Nora's hands, then Arya's, rubbing gently, his voice shaking. "It's okay. You're okay." Vanessa sighed, exasperated. "You're undermining me in front of them again." "They're not your project," he snapped. Mrs. Patel appeared at the doorway, face pale, clutching a folded blanket. "Mr. Sterling." "Bring warm towels," he said. She vanished and returned within seconds, handing him one after another as he wrapped each girl's small hands. The skin was red, raw, trembling. Nora whimpered, "If we tell, it gets worse." The words pierced him. "Who said that?" he asked softly. Neither answered. Vanessa set her teacup down with a click. "Don't dramatize this, Evan. You're teaching them weakness. Discipline doesn't hurt. It strengthens." He turned to her, voice quiet but sharp. "Look at them. You call this strength?" She smiled thinly. "You've been absent so long you wouldn't know what real parenting looks like." A car door slammed outside. Olivia stepped in, shaking snow from her coat, tone brisk. "Everyone calm down. Evan, you're overreacting. Vanessa's helping those girls become independent." Evan laughed once, bitterly. "Independent from what? Comfort? Safety?" Olivia's expression hardened. "You're exhausted. Everyone sees it. Maybe let Vanessa manage the house for a while." Mrs. Patel, still kneeling beside the twins, looked up at him. "Sir, the doctor should check their hands." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I'll call in the morning." As Olivia and Vanessa whispered in the corner, Evan knelt beside his daughters. The towel around Nora's hands was damp from melted ice and tears. He could smell the faint cocoa on the floor, the one thing he'd brought home that wasn't supposed to hurt anyone. When Vanessa finally left the room, he stayed there, listening to the storm beat against the windows. The house shivered with every gust. The twins leaned into him, one on each shoulder, their breaths uneven but steady. He whispered, "No more cold water, ever again." Arya nodded against his chest. "Promise?" "Promise." Upstairs, Vanessa's heels clicked across hardwood like punctuation. Olivia's voice murmured something about keeping things under control. Evan couldn't make out the words, but he caught the tone. Something calculating, deliberate. He looked around the kitchen. Every appliance smart, every surface connected. Lumen AI's pilot home system logged temperature, light, sound. And, suddenly, he realized he could do what he did best. Observe, analyze, reveal. That night, when the house finally fell silent, he stood before his laptop in the glow of the storm and opened the dashboard. If his own creation could keep a city safe, maybe it could tell him the truth about his home. The house slept under a white silence, the kind that muffles breath and makes every sound matter. At 3 a.m, Evan sat at his desk, blue light reflecting in his glasses, Lumen AI's dashboard flickering across the screen. The pilot system for his company's home safety prototype was never meant to spy. It was designed for energy efficiency, comfort control, child temperature regulation. But the truth didn't hide from data. It lived in it. He typed in an admin override. "Show me environmental variance, past 30 days. The results loaded in lines of code, then translated into color graphs. His chest tightened. Temperature drops every night. 23, 24, even 21 degrees, in the east wing where the girls' rooms were. Average duration, 45 minutes. Triggers, manual overrides labeled User Vanessa Home. He stared at the numbers until they blurred. His throat burned as he whispered, "She's freezing them." Then he toggled to audio snippets, ambient mics from hallway monitors meant to capture sound anomalies. The software filtered out normal household chatter, leaving only flagged phrases. Discipline. Resilience. Too warm. Again. He hesitated, then clicked play. Vanessa's voice drifted through the speakers, calm, deliberate. Ice water until it burns less. He froze. Another clip followed. If you want to earn screen time, finish the copper pans. No gloves this time. Then the smallest voice, trembling. Please, Mommy, my hands hurt. A chair scraped. Vanessa again. Pain teaches you control. Evan's stomach turned. He slammed the laptop shut and sat back, hands gripping his hair. The glow of the city outside pulsed faintly behind snow-smeared glass. For years, he'd built algorithms to protect strangers, predict fires, prevent collapses. Yet under his own roof, danger had spoken softly, in perfect grammar. He opened the laptop again, this time with new purpose. Show anomaly flags. Cold water usage below 26 degrees. The screen lit up with timestamps, more than 50 entries in 2 weeks. He cross-referenced with appliance logs. Kitchen sink, laundry, basement wash area. Cross with occupant patterns, he murmured. The system compiled motion data. Small height signatures consistent with Aria and Nora, mostly between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. He pressed his palms to his eyes. The next morning he brewed coffee at dawn. Mrs. Patel entered quietly, hands folded. You didn't sleep, she said, not as a question. No, he admitted. Mrs. Patel, how long has this been happening? Her face faltered. I didn't want to believe it. I tried to compensate. Extra blankets, hot drinks when she wasn't looking. But she calls it her method. The girls, they're frightened to tell you. Evan exhaled slowly. They shouldn't have to tell me. She placed a hand on the counter, steady and brave. Mr. Sterling, children hide pain to keep the peace. You of all people know what systems do when no one's watching. His eyes flicked toward the ceiling, toward the invisible eyes in the vents, the sensors he'd trusted. Then, maybe it's time the system watched back. Later that day, while Vanessa filmed her wellness vlog about facing discomfort, he sat in his office linking Lumen AI's private forensic module to the home network. He added new filters. Detect threat tone in adult voices. Log tasks assigned to minors after 9 p.m. Track temperature deviations by zone. The alerts poured in faster than he expected. Every night between 6 and 10, spikes in stress tone, elevated decibel peaks from crying. He copied the encrypted files to a secure drive labeled Project Hearth Personal. That evening, he tried to act normal. Dinner was quinoa and boiled carrots. Vanessa spoke about an upcoming brand partnership. We're going to pitch to a major lifestyle channel, she said brightly. Maybe you can guest star, talk about AI and self-improvement. I'm not interested in performing, he said flatly. She raised an eyebrow. Performing is how you stay relevant, darling. Without perception, there's no influence. He looked across the table at Aria tracing a finger in her plate and Nora biting her lip. Influence isn't worth much if the people closest to you are scared of it. Vanessa's smile barely flickered. Careful, Evan. You sound like you're losing perspective. Stress does strange things to the mind. He stared at her then, realizing what she was hinting at, what she might already be planning. The overworked CEO narrative. He'd seen it used before, in boardrooms and courtrooms, and if she controlled the story, she could control custody, control him. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, he stood by the twins' door. The room was warm now, the thermostat locked to 72, his override password changed. The girls slept curled together under thick blankets, their hands finally unbandaged, tiny fingers clutching each other. He whispered, I see you now. In his study downstairs, he opened a new note to himself. Step 1. Protect them. Step 2. Gather evidence. Step 3. End this. Outside, snow kept falling. Quiet, relentless, cleansing. Inside, the storm was just beginning. By the next morning, the snow had stopped, but the silence in the house was heavier than the drifts piled against the glass doors. Evan dressed for the office. Dark suit, white shirt, red tie, but he didn't leave. Instead, he sat at the breakfast bar with his laptop open to Lumen AI's home interface, pretending to review design specs while watching the house breathe. Vanessa's voice carried faintly from the gym downstairs, upbeat, performative. Resilience is a lifestyle, not a mood. The twins sat across from him, stirring cereal that had gone soggy. "Daddy," Arya whispered, "can we have hot milk?" He nodded immediately. "Of course." Vanessa appeared in the doorway mid-pour, flawless as ever in pastel activewear. "No dairy before 9. It slows metabolism." Evan's tone was calm but final. "They're having milk." The room went still. Arya's spoon paused mid-air. Vanessa's smile faltered but reassembled quickly, camera ready again. "Suit yourself." She disappeared, heels tapping toward the gym, her voice picking up in another cheery live stream. "Sometimes resistance comes from those closest to us. Stay centered." Evan exhaled slowly, then turned back to the screen. He'd refined his detection parameters overnight. The system now cross-checked temperature spikes with emotional tone, creating incident clusters. One set stood out, 5 nights in a row, roughly the same time, 7:14 p.m. He played the first flagged clip. Vanessa's voice, calm and precise. "You will finish every pan. Focus. Control your body's reaction to the cold." Then Arya's muffled sob. "I can't feel my fingers." Evan stopped the audio, jaw tight. Then he exported the files, audio, heat maps, appliance logs, to a secure folder titled Sterling Family Archive, Legal Copy. He barely noticed when Mrs. Patel entered with her gentle knock. "Sir," she said softly, "you've been at that desk since 4. He looked up, eyes bloodshot but steady. "I need to see everything. Every override, every word." She hesitated, then stepped closer. "Sometimes evidence isn't enough. You need timing." He nodded, knowing she was right. "It's coming." By afternoon, Vanessa floated through the house rehearsing her winter wellness keynote. "Our home is a sanctuary of balance," she declared into her camera, voice syrup smooth. Evan watched her from the stairwell, rage and disbelief tightening in his chest. A sanctuary, if you ignored the fear pressed into the corners. At 5 p.m., his phone buzzed. Olivia. "You sound tired," she said, her voice crisp and composed. "Maybe you should let Vanessa take over household duties for a while." Evan's grip tightened. "You've been talking to her." "She's worried. We all are. The board has noticed your distractions." "The board?" He frowned. "What does the board have to do with my family?" Olivia hesitated. "Just focus on rest, Evan. People can't trust leaders who unravel." He hung up without another word. That night, Vanessa hosted a gratitude dinner for her camera crew. Candles, linen napkins, staged laughter. The twins were sent upstairs early. Sleep hygiene, she called it. Evan stayed just long enough to smile politely, then retreated to his office. When the last guest left and the echo of her heels vanished up the marble staircase, he connected a portable drive and began recording. "Home environment audit," he said quietly, the microphone catching the tremor in his voice. "Date, January 18th, reviewing all incidents of physical endangerment involving minors under this roof." He pressed play on the clips one by one. Vanessa's voice issuing commands, the girls' small cries, the hum of the sink. He layered the heat sensor data over it, rendering a visual map of the temperature drops in real time. When the model finished, the image looked like a storm trapped inside his walls, blue and violet where warmth had vanished, red where voices had risen. He leaned back, exhausted, and whispered, I built this to save lives. Now it has to save theirs. At 2:47 a.m., the system pinged again. Another temperature drop, east wing, 24° F. He sprinted upstairs. The girls' room was cold enough that his breath fogged. Both were asleep, huddled together, hands curled under their chins. He checked the thermostat. The override wasn't Vanessa this time. It was remote, from a secondary device linked to the master console in her office. She was asleep in their bedroom, her phone glowing faintly on the nightstand. He unplugged it and tucked it under his arm. Back in the hallway, he paused outside the twins' door and listened. Their breathing steadied as the warmth returned. He whispered to himself, "Tomorrow, this ends." Then quietly, he opened his laptop again. The evidence was enough to ruin careers. But more importantly, it was enough to keep his daughters safe. He stared at their sleeping forms on the live thermal feed until his eyes blurred. The blues turned orange, warmth blooming again. He closed the laptop and finally let himself cry, silently so they wouldn't wake. By sunrise, the storm had weakened, but inside the Sterling mansion, another front gathered strength. Evan hadn't slept. He sat in his study, half lit by the pale wash of dawn, reviewing his compiled evidence. Every clip, every log, every cold spike told a story no PR statement could bury. Still, instinct told him the danger wasn't only domestic. There was something larger, too coordinated, too rehearsed. At 7 sharp, his phone rang. Caleb Pierce, family counsel, voice as smooth as polished marble. "Morning, Evan. Olivia mentioned you've been under strain. The board's concerned. Maybe consider taking a short sabbatical." Evan's tone was measured. "And who suggested that?" "Well," Caleb said after a pause, "the optics aren't ideal. Miss Vanessa mentioned volatility at home. Olivia feels—" Evan cut him off. "You're drafting papers already, aren't you?" Caleb exhaled. "It's precautionary. We can't have instability affect Lumen AI's valuation." Evan stared at the snow reflecting off his office window, voice calm but sharp. "Let me guess. The temporary trust goes to family custodians. Vanessa and Olivia." A beat of silence. "It's just until you recover, Evan." He hung up without replying. That evening, he confronted Vanessa in the living room. She was reviewing brand photos on her tablet. White cashmere robe draped around her like armor. "Why is Caleb calling about a trust transfer?" Evan asked. Her smile didn't even flicker. "It's a safety measure. You've been distant, forgetful, erratic. Olivia's worried about the girls. We all are." "Don't twist this," he warned quietly. She tilted her head, sympathetic on the surface, venom beneath. "You don't see it, do you? You're brilliant, Evan, but brilliance burns people out. Maybe you need rest." He took a step closer. "You've been setting me up." "Setting you free," she countered softly. "Lumen AI needs steady hands. I only want to help." Her voice was silk, but her eyes betrayed calculation, the kind of gaze that measures people in shares and opportunities. After she left the room, he called Mrs. Patel into the study. She closed the door gently. "Ma'am's planning something," she said. "I overheard her and Miss Olivia on a video call, mentioning Mr. Pierce and someone named Damien." Evan's pulse spiked. Damien Cade, his fiercest competitor, the CEO of Apex Cognitive Systems, the one who'd tried to poach half his engineers last quarter. "What did they say?" he asked. Mrs. Patel frowned, searching memory. "Something about documenting your instability, making sure the press sees you as unfit to lead." Evan sank back into his chair, jaw tight. He'd built an empire on logic, but now the battlefield was perception, and perception could be weaponized faster than data could clean it. That night, he unlocked his home terminal again and traced outgoing network activity. Sure enough, encrypted packets had been sent from Vanessa's devices to external servers. Metadata dumps, household audio logs, even partial transcripts of his late-night calls. She'd been feeding ammunition to both Olivia and Damien. He clicked record on his screen. "New entry," he murmured. "Evidence of coordinated fraud and coercion. Participants: Vanessa Sterling, Olivia Sterling, Caleb Pierce, Damien Cade." Then he called his security chief, Rena Doss. "Rena, I need private eyes on 3 people. No external chatter. I'll explain when we meet." "Understood," she said. "Are your daughters safe?" "For now." He ended the call, walked upstairs, and opened the twins' door. They were coloring at the foot of their bed, crayons scattered like confetti. Arya looked up first. "Are we in trouble?" He crouched down, forcing a smile. "No, sweetheart. You're safe. But things are going to be different for a little while." Nora frowned. "Different like when Mommy got sick?" His throat caught. "No, not that kind of different. This time, Daddy's staying home." Arya whispered, "She said you were too busy for us." He brushed a tear from her cheek. "She's wrong. I see everything now." That night, he moved the girls' bedding into his room under the pretense of the heating glitch. Vanessa returned late from a strategy dinner, eyebrow raised at the sight. "Their room's cold," he said evenly. "They'll stay with me until it's fixed." Vanessa's tone stayed sugary, but her smile was tight. "Of course, darling. Whatever makes you feel secure." As she walked away, he watched her reflection in the mirror, the faint smirk curving her lips. She thought she was winning. But for the first time in months, Evan felt clear. He emailed Rena a copy of the home audit and attached one final note. "Prepare evidence chain for law enforcement. Wait for my signal. Operation Hearthfire begins tomorrow." Then he turned off the lamp beside the bed, pulled the blanket up over his daughters, and whispered, "Sleep, my loves. The storm's almost over." Outside, snow began to fall again. Soft, relentless, and cleansing. Inside, the architect of systems had finally begun building something human. Protection. Morning came gray and brittle. The blizzard had moved on, but it left the streets buried and the city half asleep under ice. Evan stood by the window of his bedroom, watching the faint sunlight crawl across rooftops. The twins were still asleep in his bed, curled like mirror images beneath the heavy quilt. For a moment it almost looked normal, peaceful, safe. Mrs. Patel slipped in quietly with a tray of tea. "They didn't stir once," she said softly. Evan nodded. "They need rest." He lowered his voice. "I'm meeting Rena at headquarters in 2 hours. Vanessa doesn't know." Mrs. Patel's eyes flicked toward the hallway. "Be careful. She's been asking about access codes." "I've changed them," he said. "Only you and I have entry to the girls' wing now." He looked at the sleeping twins again, Nora's small hand clutching the edge of her sister's sleeve. "If anything feels off, take them to my office at Lumen AI. I've arranged security there." "I understand," Mrs. Patel said. "I'll keep them close." When Evan arrived at the company's Boston headquarters, the world outside was still white. Inside, the air hummed with quiet energy, servers blinking like heartbeats. Rena Doss, Lumen AI's head of corporate security, was waiting in his private conference room. She was calm, efficient, the kind of person who saw danger before anyone else did. He set the encrypted drive on the table. "Everything's on here. Audio, thermal logs, proof of environmental abuse, plus metadata linking Vanessa and Olivia to Pierce and Damien Cade. I need this secured, verified, and mirrored off-site." Rena opened the file, scanned quickly, and exhaled. "Good God, Evan! This isn't just domestic manipulation. This is corporate sabotage." "They wanted me declared unfit," he said. "Vanessa triggers a sabbatical. Olivia and Pierce manage a temporary trust. Damien buys in under the radar." "And the kids?" she asked quietly. "They're the leverage." His voice cracked, barely. "That ends today." Rena nodded, her tone changing from empathy to strategy. "You can't confront them yet. We need to set the timeline and the legal triggers. Give them room to think they've won." He rubbed his temples. Every minute they think that, my daughters live in the same house as her. Then buy us 24 hours, she said. Move the girls under the pretense of security testing. I'll have the safe room ready here. Soundproof, warm, stocked. We'll keep them invisible until this breaks. By the time he returned home, Vanessa was filming a video in the foyer about mindful mornings after the storm. Her followers flooded the chat with hearts and snowflake emojis. She ended the stream and turned toward him, flawless. "You didn't call," she said. "I had to check on the office," he replied, removing his coat. The storm hit one of the server hubs. She stepped closer, concern painted neatly on her face. "You look tense. Maybe you should take Olivia's advice. Step back for a bit. I can handle things here." He smiled faintly. "I'm sure you could." That night, as the twins played quietly with their toys, Evan sat beside them on the floor. Arya traced a crayon drawing, a house, 2 stick figures, and a big sun. Nora leaned against his shoulder. "Daddy," she whispered, "if we tell the truth, will we get in trouble?" He paused. "No, sweetheart. The truth keeps us safe." "But she said people who tell are liars," Arya murmured, "and liars get sent away." Evan's throat tightened. "No one's sending you anywhere." He placed a hand on each of their backs. "Tomorrow. You're coming with me to the office. Mrs. Patel will come too. It'll be an adventure. Lots of screens, lots of cocoa." Their eyes flickered with something between hope and disbelief. "Can we bring our drawings?" Nora asked. "Please do," he said softly. "Bring everything you love." Late that night, as the girls slept again, Vanessa slipped into his study. "We need to talk about appearances," she began. "Your mood swings, your absences. People notice. The board's worried." He didn't look up. "I'm not the one staging a performance for them." She crossed her arms. "You think I'm the villain, but I've kept this family from collapsing while you buried yourself in machines." He turned then, eyes cold. "Machines don't lie. People do." Something in his tone made her blink. "What are you implying?" "That I've been watching," he said evenly. "Everything. Every override, every word." Her composure cracked just for a heartbeat. "You wouldn't dare invade my privacy." "It's not invasion," he said. "It's evidence." Her face went pale. Then quickly the mask reformed. "If you've really lost it this badly, maybe Olivia's right. You need help, Evan." He stood, towering. "I needed clarity. Now I have it." She stepped back, pretending to look frightened. "You're scaring me." He held her gaze. "Good. Then maybe you'll finally understand what fear feels like." She fled upstairs, no doubt already texting Olivia. He watched her go, heart pounding, not from rage, but from purpose. He sent one last message to Rena. "They'll move tomorrow. Be ready by 9. Then he returned to his daughter's room, sat in the armchair beside their bed, and stayed there until morning light touched their faces. When Nora stirred and blinked sleepily, he smiled for real this time. "Pack your scarves, little ones," he whispered. "We're going somewhere warm." By dawn, the plan was in motion. Frost clung to the windows, the sky the color of steel. Evan moved quietly through the house, his breath visible in the cold air that seemed to creep back whenever Vanessa was awake. Mrs. Patel met him in the hall, coat already on, a thermos tucked under her arm. "The car's ready," she said softly. "The girls have their bags, scarves, sketchbooks, everything." "Good," he said, glancing toward the staircase. "We leave before she wakes." But Vanessa was already awake. She appeared at the top of the stairs in her cream robe, phone in hand, smiling faintly. "Early start." Evan kept his tone even. "The office needs a systems check after the storm. I'm taking the girls to Lumen AI for the day." Her eyes narrowed behind the mask of casual calm. "That's not appropriate, Evan. They have school." "School's closed. District notice went out an hour ago." She paused, calculating. "Then I'll come with you." He shook his head. "No press today, no cameras. It's just work." Vanessa studied him for a long, silent moment. The air between them felt charged, brittle. You seem paranoid lately, she said softly. Are you sure you're not overcompensating for— He cut her off gently. Goodbye, Vanessa. The word hung there, heavy as snow. She blinked once as if unsure she'd heard him right. What did you say? He met her gaze. Goodbye, that's all. Without waiting for her reply, he turned toward the door, holding Nora's mittened hand in one palm and Arya's in the other. Mrs. Patel followed, shutting the door behind them. The drive to Lumen AI headquarters was quiet. The girls dozed against each other in the back seat, and the city outside gleamed under a white crust of frozen light. When they arrived, Rena Doss met them at the service entrance, dressed in plain clothes, a calm authority radiating from every movement. Everything's ready, she said quietly. They'll be safe here. Evan knelt to the girls' level. You're going to stay with Mrs. Patel and Miss Rena for a little while. I'll come get you soon, okay? Arya looked uncertain. Will she come here? He hesitated. Not where you'll be. Promise. Nora touched the locket around her neck, a small silver snowflake Claire had given her before she died. Mommy used to say promises are only real when they're kept. He smiled faintly. Then I'll make this one real. Rena led them down a private hallway into the safe room, soundproof, climate-controlled, stocked with soft blankets, cocoa, and art supplies. A wide monitor on the wall played nature videos to keep the twins calm. Mrs. Patel gave him a firm nod before closing the door. Back upstairs, Evan entered the boardroom. The panoramic windows overlooked the frozen harbor, where tugboats broke the ice in slow, deliberate lines. His reflection in the glass looked older, colder, but sharper. At 10 sharp, Vanessa walked in, flanked by Olivia and Caleb Pierce. She was all grace and poise again. In a tailored white coat, her hair immaculate. You didn't think I'd miss the Winter Innovation Summit, did you? She said sweetly. Evan gestured toward the large LED wall. Perfect timing. Caleb smiled thinly. We've already prepared the draft for your temporary leave. Once you sign, the transition will appear seamless. Lumen AI will thank you for your grace. Olivia added, Think of the children, Evan. They deserve a stable environment. He studied them in silence, then leaned back. Stability, he said softly. Interesting word. Vanessa folded her arms. Please, let's not make this difficult. We can keep things private. Rena slipped into the room quietly, standing near the back wall. She gave a small nod. Signal received. Everything was ready. Evan rose. Private? He walked toward the window. You mean like this? The LED wall flickered to life behind him. A series of data logs appeared. Heat maps, timestamps, transcribed audio. Vanessa froze mid-breath. Olivia went pale. What is this? Caleb demanded. Evan turned to face them. Lumen AI's home monitoring prototype. It records environmental patterns and identifies abuse signals. It seems my own house was a perfect test case. Vanessa's composure cracked. You can't show that. Those are private. Not anymore. The wall cycled through evidence, Vanessa's voice ordering ice water until it burns less, Olivia's call with Caleb about the mental exhaustion narrative, financial transfers between Sterling Capital and Apex Cognitive Systems. Olivia's voice broke first. Evan, this doesn't mean— He held up a hand. It means everything. Outside the glass, snow began to fall again, gentle but endless. Inside, the air felt like the pause before judgment. Vanessa turned toward the door, but 2 uniformed security officers stepped inside. Rena's voice was low and firm. Boston PD's en route. We've already sent the files to Family Services and Financial Crimes. For the first time, Vanessa's calm dissolved completely. You're destroying yourself, she shouted. We could have had everything. Evan looked at her with quiet finality. I already do. Downstairs in the safe room, Arya looked up from her drawing as the sound of distant sirens reached faintly through the vents. Nora squeezed her hand and whispered, Is it over? Mrs. Patel smiled gently. Almost, my dear. Almost. Snow fell in wide, slow spirals outside Lumen.AI's glass atrium as the board assembled, unaware they were about to witness the most unorthodox meeting in company history. Rena stood discreetly by the entrance, headset on, coordinating with the Boston police units waiting below. The hum of distant sirens mixed with the faint murmur of heaters working against the cold. At the head of the table, Evan adjusted his tie, his signature Navy suit crisp, posture steady. He looked like the CEO the public knew, composed, visionary, untouchable. Only his eyes betrayed the storm inside. Vanessa sat 3 seats away, flanked by Olivia and Caleb. Her poise was icy, but her hands trembled against the porcelain cup of tea she refused to drink. Olivia's expression was tight, her jaw locked in that blend of superiority and fear Evan had learned to recognize in her boardroom stares. Caleb pretended calm, but couldn't meet his gaze. "Let's begin," Olivia said briskly. "The board is convened to finalize leadership transition. Evan, we appreciate your cooperation in ensuring a stable—" She froze as the LED wall behind him came to life. The Lumen.AI forensic interface spread across the screen in silent animation, heat maps shifting like weather radar, timestamps blinking along the bottom edge. Evan's voice broke the hush. "This isn't a transition meeting. It's a truth meeting." He tapped a key. The room darkened slightly as the first recording played, Vanessa's voice, serene and merciless. "Cold water until it burns less." The audio reverberated through the speakers. Gasps rippled around the table. The next clip followed, Olivia's voice on speakerphone. "Exhaust him first, then we'll have grounds for a stability vote." And then Caleb's low murmur. "We'll keep it quiet. Once the trust is in place, Damien takes over the public narrative." Vanessa stood abruptly. "This is manipulation. Deepfakes, AI trickery. He's unstable." Evan didn't raise his voice. "Those are your voices, confirmed through system authentication and metadata tags. Every timestamp matches Lumen.AI's internal clock. You taught me what manipulation looks like, Vanessa, but data doesn't lie." Her face drained of color. "You can't prove context." He turned toward the screen. "Context?" Another image appeared. Still frames from the security sensors, auto-blurred to preserve the girl's privacy. The heat signature of 2 small figures at the sink. Water temperature logged at 25 degrees. Audio overlay. No gloves this time. Vanessa's knees buckled. The chair scraped against marble as she sat back down, shaking. Evan looked at her for a long, terrible moment. "I built technology to protect the vulnerable. I never thought I'd need it in my own home." He faced the board. "What you're seeing isn't an internal issue. It's criminal coercion and child endangerment. I've filed petitions with family services and state authorities. The investigation is active." Olivia slammed her folder shut. "You can't just hijack a board session for your personal melodrama." Rena stepped forward, voice steady. "Actually, he can. Under Section 8 of the Corporate Ethics Charter, evidence of criminal misconduct by a fiduciary triggers an emergency review." Caleb stood, stammering. This was just precautionary." The doors opened. 2 uniformed officers entered quietly. One approached Caleb. "Caleb Pierce? You're under arrest for document forgery and conspiracy to commit corporate fraud." The second officer turned toward Vanessa. "Mrs. Sterling, you're being detained under suspicion of child endangerment and collusion in financial manipulation." Vanessa's breath hitched. You said this would be easy," she hissed toward Olivia. Olivia froze. "What are you—" But the officers were already reading her rights. Rena handed over the compiled evidence. Cameras flashed as the 3 were escorted through the glass doors, snow swirling around their footprints. When the echo faded, silence lingered. Thick, disbelieving. Evan looked around the table. "You wanted transparency. You've got it. I'm taking a leave, not because of instability, but because I owe something to the people I love more than this company." A junior board member broke the silence. "Sir, with respect, after what you just did, I think you've earned our full trust." He nodded once, eyes glassy but resolute. Outside, through the atrium glass, he could see Mrs. Patel's car parked across the street. Two small faces peered through the window, Arya and Nora, clutching cocoa cups. He exhaled, the first real breath in months. Meeting adjourned. As the doors closed behind him, snowflakes swirled through the revolving glass, dissolving against his coat. He crossed the street, opened the car door, and smiled down at his daughters. Arya whispered, "Is it over, Daddy?" He nodded. "Almost." Nora's small hand slipped into his. "Can we go home?" He looked up at the skyline, his city, his creation, and, somewhere within it, the house he'd finally reclaimed. "Yes," he said softly, "but this time, we'll build it right." Snow was still falling when they pulled up to the mansion that night. The police cars had already left, their tire tracks half buried under white. Evan stepped out first, the air biting his lungs, but this time the cold didn't feel hostile. It felt like a clean slate. The house loomed above them, dark and still. Inside, silence replaced the brittle tension that had once ruled every hallway. Mrs. Patel unlocked the door, her face drawn but calm. "It's done," she said quietly. Officers searched Vanessa's office. They took her devices and documents. She won't be coming back. Evan nodded, glancing toward the grand staircase that suddenly looked enormous and empty. Good. The twins stood behind him, hesitant to cross the threshold. "Daddy," Arya whispered. "Is she gone forever?" He crouched down, meeting her eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. She's not coming back. You're safe now." Nora slipped her mittened hand into his. "Does that mean we can laugh again?" His throat tightened. "Yeah, honey. It means exactly that." They stepped inside together. The security system chimed, its voice neutral, automated. "Welcome home, Mr. Sterling." For the first time, the words didn't sound hollow. While Mrs. Patel guided the twins upstairs to change, Evan stood in the foyer and looked around. Every detail of the house carried a ghost. Vanessa's sterile perfection, Olivia's sharp remarks, the echo of his own silence. He realized the walls themselves felt different now, as if they'd been holding their breath for years and could finally exhale. He walked into the kitchen. The copper pans hung polished and still. A faint scent of cocoa lingered from a pot Mrs. Patel had warmed earlier. On the fridge, the girls' paper snowflakes still clung under a magnet. Creased, uneven, stubbornly imperfect. He touched it gently, remembering the night Claire had helped them cut it. She'd laughed when they tore the edges unevenly. "It's not supposed to be perfect, Ev. It's supposed to be theirs." He took a deep breath and whispered, "I should have remembered that sooner." Footsteps padded down the hall. The twins appeared, wrapped in pajamas, hair still damp from baths. Arya carried a sketch pad. Nora held the snowflake. "We wanted to show you something," Arya said shyly. She opened the sketchbook. Inside was a drawing of their family. Evan in the middle, the twins on either side, Mrs. Patel in the background with cocoa mugs. Above them, snowflakes fell, and next to them, a smaller figure with angel wings and curly hair. Claire. Evan's chest constricted. "You drew Mommy." Nora nodded. "She watches us now, so we can sleep." He swallowed hard, blinking fast. "That's beautiful, baby." Mrs. Patel joined them, carrying a tray of steaming cocoa. "Thought we'd start over properly." They sat together at the kitchen table, the same table that had once been cold and silent, now glowing with lamplight. The girls dipped marshmallows, giggling when they melted too fast. The sound was soft, unguarded. After they'd gone to bed, Evan lingered by the fireplace. The flames reflected in the glass walls, warming corners that had known only frost. Rena called to update him. Vanessa and Caleb were in custody. Olivia was cooperating under counsel. Damien Cade's assets were frozen pending federal investigation. Public's already speculating, Rena said. You want me to release a statement? Evan shook his head, though she couldn't see it. Not yet. Let the noise fade first. This isn't about me anymore. When the call ended, he sat quietly, staring into the fire. His phone buzzed again, an unread text from an old contact at Boston Children's Hospital. Heard about the case. If you ever fund AI for pediatric safety again, we'd partner in a heartbeat. He smiled faintly. Maybe sooner than you think, he typed back. Before heading upstairs, he reset the home system from the central console. New user profile. Aria and Nora. Mode. Auto adjust heat. Enable bedtime story playlists. Deactivate camera feeds during sleep. Privacy by design. Trust, not surveillance. As he finished, he caught his reflection in the dark glass of the screen. Same face, same suit, but softer around the eyes. The kind of tired that finally meant peace. He walked upstairs to check on the girls one last time. They were fast asleep, the snowflake drawing pinned to the headboard. He leaned down and whispered, I'm sorry I didn't see sooner. I promise I always will now. Outside, snow swept across the lawn under streetlights, erasing old footprints and replacing them with clean, untouched white. In that quiet, Evan finally let himself believe it. Redemption wasn't a grand gesture. It was small, daily warmth restored, one heartbeat at a time. The next morning, sunlight poured across the snow like forgiveness. For the first time in months, the Sterling mansion didn't feel like a fortress. It felt alive. The furnace hummed. The smell of cinnamon and toast drifted through the kitchen, and the twins' laughter floated down the hall. Evan stood by the counter, tie loose, sleeves rolled, pouring orange juice into 2 small glasses. Aria perched on a stool, braiding Nora's hair while humming a song Claire used to sing. Mrs. Patel smiled as she set down a plate of pancakes. I can't remember the last time this kitchen sounded like joy, she said softly. Evan returned her smile. Me neither. He leaned down to the girls. After breakfast, how about we build the biggest snow fort in Massachusetts? Nora's eyes widened. Can we use cocoa breaks? Mandatory, he said. Mrs. Patel chuckled. I'll bring the marshmallows. It was a small moment, but it felt enormous. Ordinary life, finally safe to touch. Later that afternoon, they bundled up and headed outside. The backyard stretched under a pale blue sky, the snow deep but clean. The twins dove into drifts, laughing so hard they lost balance. Evan followed, kneeling beside them, shaping the walls of their fort with gloved hands. Daddy, Aria said between giggles, yours is crooked. He smiled. Then it's perfect. Nora pressed a snowball into place. Mommy would like it. She'd love it, he said, voice gentle. She'd say this is what home's supposed to sound like. For the first time, when he looked toward the house, he didn't see cold windows or flickering lights, just warmth. Inside, the living room glowed through the glass, the fire still burning low, as if the whole place had been waiting for this day. By evening, the snow fort was complete, an uneven castle, flag made from a scarf, and a single paper snowflake taped above the doorway. The girls declared it Fort Sterling. Evan took a photo of them standing proudly in front of it, cheeks red, grins unstoppable. As the sky darkened, they went inside. Mrs. Patel had already lit candles and set out dinner, simple stew and fresh bread. Evan ate slowly, savoring every bite, every laugh, every story the girls shared about their imaginary snow kingdom. After dinner, he tucked them into bed. Aria reached out sleepily. You're staying home tomorrow, right? He brushed her hair back. Yes, sweetheart. No interviews, no cameras, just us. Nora whispered, Promise? He smiled. Promise. Downstairs, he sat at his desk again, but this time not to investigate, just to write. He opened a blank document titled Project Hearth. The cursor blinked at the top of the page. Slowly, he began to type. Technology should protect the unseen, the ones too small to be heard. What failed my home will now protect others. He wrote until his eyes blurred, outlining a new mission for Lumen AI, a privacy-safe AI toolkit designed to detect early signs of abuse, neglect, or unsafe conditions in schools, shelters, and foster homes. No invasive cameras, no publicity stunts, just quiet defense for those without a voice. When he finished, he leaned back, reading the last line aloud. Home isn't walls and systems. It's warmth that never needs permission. He saved the file and smiled. It wasn't just code, it was penance, purpose, and healing stitched together. Before heading to bed, he walked through the house once more. The heat was steady, the air soft. The kitchen light glowed on the copper pans, no longer symbols of fear, but of reflection. On the fridge, the paper snowflake fluttered slightly from the warm draft. He touched it and whispered, "We're okay now." Upstairs, he checked on the twins one last time. Nora was snoring softly. Arya clutched the snowflake locket Claire had given her. Evan whispered into the quiet, "Sleep easy, my loves. The storm's gone." Then he turned off the light, leaving the hallway bathed in the soft amber of safety. Outside, the snow fort glistened under moonlight, uneven, fragile, and perfect. The following week, the snow began to melt, slowly, steadily, like the house itself was learning to breathe again. The worst headlines had already faded. Public curiosity gave way to quieter stories about Lumen AI's reforms and the CEO who'd chosen to rebuild from within. Evan stood in the company's media room, cameras off, lights low, recording a message not for shareholders, but for families. On screen, he looked calm. No tie, just a dark sweater, sleeves rolled. His voice carried warmth rather than authority. "When technology can listen," he began softly, "it should listen for what matters most. The small things people can't always say." He paused, eyes steady on the lens. Lumen AI was built to make cities safer. Now, it will make homes safer too. We're donating a new system called Project Hearth to schools and shelters across the country. No tracking, no invasion, just quiet care. He took a breath. Every child deserves warmth, protection, and a voice. Sometimes, that starts with the courage to see what's been in front of you all along. He ended the recording with a faint smile. Technology should protect the small and unseen. When he finished, the room was silent except for the hum of servers. Rena watched from the corner, arms crossed, expression softened. "It's good," she said. "It's honest." Evan nodded. "Honesty's all I have left to give." That night, he went home to a house that finally felt like his. The twins were sprawled on the living room rug, coloring on giant sheets of paper. Nora was drawing robots with big hearts. Arya was sketching houses. Mrs. Patel sat in the armchair, knitting something blue and small. Mittens, maybe. "Daddy!" Nora shouted when he walked in. "We watched your video." Arya beamed. "Mrs. Patel said you helped other kids too." Evan smiled, setting his bag down. "That's the idea. No one should ever feel cold at home again." "Even when it's winter?" Nora asked. He knelt between them. "Especially then." The next few days unfolded quietly. The girls went back to school, the house filled with normal sounds again, homework chatter, piano practice, cocoa simmering on the stove. When Mrs. Patel brought the mail, Evan found a thick envelope with the state seal, official notice that the custody hearing had closed permanently. Full guardianship restored. He sat at the kitchen table for a long moment, holding the letter. Relief didn't feel loud. It felt like a deep exhale. Later that afternoon, Arya brought him a folded piece of paper. "I made you a new snowflake," she said shyly. He opened it carefully. It wasn't perfect. The cuts were jagged, uneven, but it glimmered under the sunlight. "It's got holes," Nora said critically. Evan smiled. So the light can get through. That evening, they lit the fireplace again. Mrs. Patel joined them with cocoa, and the girls took turns reading aloud from their favorite bedtime story. Halfway through, Arya looked up and said, "Daddy, can we make Project Hearth for real people too? Not just computers?" He frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" "Like, people who listen the way your machine does," she said. "You know, so no one gets hurt again." He reached over and squeezed her hand. "That's exactly what we're doing." As the girls drifted toward sleep, he stared at the fire, the flickering light painting the walls gold. The copper pans above the stove caught the glow, their reflections soft and warm. For the first time, the house didn't echo with ghosts. It hummed with life. Upstairs, he checked the thermostat out of habit. 72. He smiled. The simplest numbers sometimes meant the most. When he looked out the window, the snow fort was half collapsed but still standing. A single paper snowflake fluttered from the top like a flag of survival. The next morning, his phone buzzed with an alert from Lumen AI's mainframe. The pilot for Project Hearth had gone live. 5 shelters, 3 schools, and 1 hospital. Each had sent the same message. "Thank you." He set the phone down, poured himself coffee, and whispered, "You're welcome." Then he turned toward the laughter coming from the kitchen, his daughters arguing over who made better pancakes, and let the sound fill every empty space that used to hurt. Outside, the world was thawing. Inside, warmth had become permanent. The snow finally stopped the night before the launch. Boston woke under a pale gold sky, the kind that made even the frost look soft. Lumen AI's headquarters shimmered against the harbor, banners reading Project Hearth, a new kind of protection, fluttering in the wind. It wasn't a product release, it was a promise. Evan stood backstage, dressed in his navy suit and a soft wool scarf that Arya had chosen for him. Through the glass doors, he could see the crowd gathering. Reporters, school directors, social workers, city leaders. None of them knew how personal this moment was. Mrs. Patel was there too, holding the twins' coats. Arya and Nora clung to her hands, eyes wide as they watched their father step up to the podium. He began simply, voice steady but tender. 3 winters ago, I built technology to help cities survive storms. But storms don't always live outside. Sometimes they start at home, in silence, in fear, in things unseen. The audience went still. He continued, Project Hearth isn't about data. It's about listening differently. It uses warmth sensors, sound balance, and anomaly patterns to protect what really matters, the people inside those walls. He paused, gaze lowering for a beat. No child should ever be punished by cold. His eyes found Arya and Nora in the front row. They smiled up at him, small and proud. Sometimes the systems we build end up saving us first, he said softly. And when that happens, we owe it to the world to share the cure. When the applause came, it was gentle, not thunderous, the kind that came from understanding, not spectacle. Afterward, the twins raced to the stage, bundled in scarves. Arya threw her arms around him. "You did it, Daddy!" He laughed, catching her mid-jump. "No," he said, "we did it." Nora held up something in her mittened hand, a new paper snowflake she'd made that morning. "You forgot your lucky one." He took it, unfolding it carefully. The cuts were uneven, the center shaped like a tiny heart. "Perfect," he murmured, pinning it to his lapel. Mrs. Patel joined them, smiling through tears. "Claire would be proud," she said quietly. Evan looked toward the sky, exhaling a breath he'd been holding for 3 years. "I think she already knows." That evening, they walked through the Boston Public Garden. The pond was frozen solid, children skating under string lights. Arya tugged his hand. "Can we go on the bridge?" "Lead the way." They crossed together, Evan in his dark suit and scarf, the twins in bright coats, their laughter echoing against the quiet water. He stopped halfway across, kneeling so he was eye level with them. The city skyline shimmered behind them, lights reflecting like stars trapped in glass. "I should have seen sooner," he said softly. "I should have listened better, but I won't miss again." The girls each took one of his hands. "We know, Daddy." He smiled, eyes wet but peaceful. "Let's go home." Back at the mansion, he powered his phone down at the door. The house greeted them with warmth, not just from the heater, but from something deeper, human. Mrs. Patel hummed in the kitchen, cocoa simmering on the stove. The twins darted ahead, arguing over marshmallow counts. Evan paused in the foyer, glancing at the paper snowflakes still on the fridge. For once, it didn't look fragile. It looked eternal. He turned off the last light in the hall, listening to the sounds of laughter upstairs. No echoes now, just life. Outside, a single flake drifted down, landing against the window. The storm had passed. The new pattern held, and in that quiet, sacred peace, Evan Sterling finally understood what his daughters, and his late wife, had been trying to teach him all along, that the warmest homes aren't the ones that predict the weather, but the ones that survive it together.